Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 7 of Show Us Your Kit on the Old Gold and Black. I'm joined today by an Ipswich Town fan, Benjamin Bloom, who you may recognise as well from... he appeared on the channel 2 years ago, where I asked him, would he take relegation to League One to just see some different football? So, Ben, what's happened in the last 2 years at Ipswich Town?
Please don't play a clip of my answer.
No.
I thought you were going to say... can you imagine that? So 2 years ago, you got Wolves and Ipswich in the same division. You've already been Fosunned and Nuno'd and have these ridiculous players that are way too good for the Championship. But yeah, you're now in Europe and looking at the, possibly the top 6, and we're down in 10th in League One. Well, this will be a familiar story to Wolves fans because lovely old Mick left, and let's just say I respect Mick and I admire Mick, but the way he runs things, it tends to lend itself to not much succession after. All the players kind of love him. He gives them very simple, straightforward instructions, and sadly, unless you get Mick McCarthy Part 2 and bring a 20 years younger version of McCarthy in to do similar things, it's quite hard to transition. And I know you guys had a relegation after as well. We haven't quite had a Kenny Jackett and 100 points in League One though.
Yeah, another former Wolves manager in charge instead. How has he coped with League One?
Can I just ask you first, what do you think of Paul Lambert?
Dour. To sum him up in one word, we didn't get to see a lot of him because his job was mainly to stop us from getting relegated from the Championship with a very good team. He had
held the Costa though, didn't he?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, he wasn't able to utilise the players that we had, like Roman Sace, who's now one of the most classy centre-backs that we've ever seen at Molineux. He says about Paul Lambert that he just made him run, and he doesn't mind running, but for a reason. But he never did any ball work or anything in training, and you could just tell it was classless on the pitch, and we would never have got promoted if we'd have kept him the following season. Even if we'd have had Ruben Neves, etc., he wouldn't have been able to get the best out of those players.
Yeah. Your view chimes with a lot of Ipswich fans. Obviously, there's the Norwich thing as well, that he was so successful at Norwich, and then I think when he came, you looked and we made lots of excuses for him. So, Villa, Lerner wanted to sell, and he actually did quite well to stave it off for a while. And then Blackburn, well, who can work for Venky's? And Stoke, well, he comes in at the last minute. And Wolves, well, they wanted Nuno and they were going to change it anyway. It's not been good at all, actually, Tom. And I've said this on loads of podcasts. I went to a game in September of this season, and we were top of the league. We were playing. I'm not going to say we're playing well. We were winning and scoring lots of goals and keeping lots of clean sheets. And I hadn't been for a few weeks. I've been doing some Championship games, and I saw us play Shrewsbury. And we went 1-0 up. We went 2-0 up. Shrewsbury had a guy sent off. We won the game 3-0. And I just remember having a chat with one of my podcast Blue Monday guys at half time and saying, I don't get it. We're not good. We were quite direct. Our forwards scored the only 2 chances they've got. We gave away like 3 clear chances, and then they had a guy stupidly sent off. And I said in September, I don't get it. We're top of the league, but we're not good. We've got better players than League One. And look, there's a lot of things I'm wrong about, but the pattern of play and whatnot has come to prove to have not quite been there. So, in answer to what the hell happened, well, you got into Europe and scored 1 million points, and we could all see that Bolly and Neves were already good enough for the Premier League, with their cigars on in the Championship, and we've made yet more bad operational decisions, bad managerial. I'm talking about Paul Hurst there, but
Well, I mean, in fact, he had just been appointed the last time I spoke to you, and was he Shrewsbury manager before you?
He was Shrewsbury manager, and he'd taken them all the way to the League One playoff final,
Yeah,
and they
that's right.
lost to Rotherham, lost to Paul Warne's Rotherham, and it was supposed to be the bright young thing, and yeah, it was a disaster. He was out after 14 games, and he tried to unmick Mick McCarthy, the squad, and of course, you know what Mick's players are, they're so loyal to him, they wouldn't have it. And some people argue now, if you'd kept Paul Hurst in, would we be any worse off? Although I have to say, the recruitment, he took everything that was good about what Mick did, and Waghorn went, Webster went, Garner went, Selina went, McGoldrick went, and then bought in the players that he would have signed in League One if he'd had money with Shrewsbury, and it bombed.
Well, how are you coping as well now without being able to go to football? Because I know that you do go to a lot of football outside of Ipswich Town as well. I remember watching a video of yours last year when you tallied up all the games you'd been to and stuff. What was it? Can you remember the final total off the top of your head?
78 last season.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And
so were you on course to beat that this season?
Do you know, I wasn't. I'd edited the channel a little bit to try and get in live streams as well. So I've been doing live stream reviews and live stream previews, and trying to balance things up. If you really went for it, I'd have to take some other stuff out. Also, you have a chat with your missus, and it's like, right, how many games are you going to divorce me on? Do you know what I mean? So maybe I'll beat 78 one day. Maybe if the channel goes really well and I don't have to work full time in my other job, I can. But I'm doing more videos, but slightly less match reviews. And the difficult thing, of course, is that the channel's based on the Championship, and Ipswich now go down to League One. So then I have to dip in and do at least 15, 20 Ipswich games, or I get completely slammed on the Ipswich forums. But no, I don't know whether I'll beat 78.
I mean, I remember watching a couple of very impressive days around the playoffs where you were going to 3 different games in like 3 different parts of the country as well in one day.
I've never done very 3. Impressive. 2. Okay. The worst one was that it was that mad weekend when Leeds lost. They lost at home to Wigan. That crazy game where
was it Easter weekend, or was it certainly around?
Yeah, so you're right. It would have been Good Friday. Yeah, it was Good Friday, wasn't it? Because then they lost to Brentford. And I did. The geography of this is stupid. I did Sheffield United versus Forest at 12:30, and then Norwich versus Blackburn at 7:45. And you look at it when you're buying the tickets, and you go 12:30, 7:45. That's easy. I tell you drive from Sheffield to Norwich, because you're going against all the motorways on all these crappy roads through Lincolnshire and down, and I was screwed by the end of that day. But it made for a fun video. The good one was the playoff semi-final day, where that worked out really well.
Yeah,
it was
Villa Albion, wasn't it? Yeah,
Villa Albion at Villa, and then Derby Leeds, and I think Derby, they were like at 12 o'clock and a 4:30, and it was smooth as you like. Yeah,
that's right. In fact, I remember trying to do the same thing as you, but obviously not knowing that you were doing it. But I couldn't get a ticket for the Albion Villa game, and I didn't want to buy a ticket through the Albion channels because I thought I might never be allowed back in.
They made it quite difficult, Tom, as well. You had to have previous.
But I did manage to go to the Derby Leeds semi-final, but not the correct leg. The second leg was far more entertaining, wasn't it?
Well, it wasn't. There was mad traffic on the second leg as well. So I got to that one 10 minutes late, and well, I didn't miss any goals, and I didn't miss the incredible meltdown in the second half either. But no, incredible games. When you compare them to the Baggies 8 men behind the ball and 3 men on Grealish tactics, it's a little bit different.
Yeah. Right. So let's move on to the first part of the show then, which is to show us your favourite kits. So I've asked you for a favourite Ipswich kit of yours, which I'll put on the screen now. And if you could explain to the viewers why this shirt, because it looks a little bit before your time, if I'm honest.
Yeah, so it's 1 year before I was born. This is 1981, and that is the late great Kevin Beattie. Even look at him wearing the necklace
I know,
as
yeah.
well, outstanding as well. So that is Ipswich Town's greatest ever player, Kevin Beattie, and that would be the FA Cup semi-final. Is that Villa Park? It
It
is, isn't it?
looks a bit like the Holte End, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be the FA Cup semi-final replay against Manchester City, which Ipswich are going to absolutely dominate, and then Paul Power's going to bang a free kick in extra time, and of course Ipswich finished second in the league to Villa that season, and knocked out in the FA Cup semi-final extra time, and they're going to win the UEFA Cup.
Yeah.
But I just love the Adidas. I love the simplicity of it. It just represents, there's no sponsor. It just represents, the greatest time in the club's history. And there's the greatest player wearing it. It's just fantastic, isn't it? And it reminds me of those early Adidas Holland kits as well. I've got a couple more for you, actual ones, if you want to see them as well,
please.
Tom,
Yeah.
if you want to go to full screen.
Yeah.
So these are some of mine. This is a 97, 98 home kit, which is a good fun design. It's actually made by Ipswich as well, and this will remind you of Matt Holland maybe and David Johnson, players of that nature. This is the away kit from that season, which is Ipswich have never had a kit like this.
Oh wow!
Since
that is something.
Yeah, really weird one. If you look there, it's signed by Mauricio Taricco, who was the best player probably in that team at the time. Went on to play for Tottenham. And I just got another one because you'll like the colour of it being a Wolves fan.
I remember that Ipswich kit. Yeah,
great kit, isn't it? So this is from the promotion season in '99. 2000. So you would have seen Marcus Stewart killing the playoff semi-final.
Yeah. That's that kit manufacturer there, Punch. I've never seen anywhere before. Is that a local one or?
It's they made their own kits, so it's Suffolk Punch.
Okay.
So yeah, they tried to do it for a while, but obviously the Adidas ones and the way sponsorship is nowadays, I can see the big Puma on your Wolves top. There, but no, they tried to do their own for. Well, I mean, they're interesting, but just when you compare it to the white one there that you can see Kevin Beattie wearing, there's something iconic, and you've seen other players wearing the Adidas stripes and whatnot, haven't you? So I'd have to go for the '81 white kit.
Yeah, so there was a previous podcast that I've done on this as well. A Leeds fan was talking about the simplicity of the kits in the 1970s. So would you support going back to sponsorless kits like the Paddy Power tried to sort of bring in this season with their big thing with Huddersfield?
I don't know. I think things are of their time, aren't they?
Yeah.
And sponsorship is a big thing now, and clubs need that, and maybe not necessarily Premier League clubs, but I suppose even some of them are making a pretty penny on the sponsorship. I don't know. I love those Leeds kits, and Revie wanted to replicate Real Madrid, didn't he, with just the plain white kits. I think things develop kind of as they should. And yet, I think I always remember when I was growing up, the Liverpool kits with candy written on, because Liverpool were the great team when I was at primary school, and your Crown Paints, and you actually remember the Carlsberg. I know all the Liverpool sponsors. I don't even care about Liverpool,
but that is true. Yeah,
and I suppose Goodyear, was it, or Goodman's for Wolves?
Goodyear, yeah, somewhere. One of these arms, yeah. Goodyear.
Still.
No, this is an old kit. This is from the 90s. Yeah.
If you're not
a long time,
fan, your memory is Steve Ball with Goodyear written on his front, isn't it?
Yeah. And then famously we had Doritos for a couple of seasons, which everybody seems to remember. Right, let's have a look at your next kit then. So actually for a non-Ipswich kit, and you've gone for one which you said was going to be controversial, but explain why you've chosen Jurgen Klinsmann in this Italia 90 Germany shirt.
It's just a brilliant kit, isn't it? I know it's kind of, it's West Germany and we lost in the semi-finals to them, but I'd never seen, it's an Adidas one again, I'd never seen a kit like that before. I was 8 years old, and remember, in terms of our favourites, we always picked the stuff of when we fell in love with football, and I remember being allowed to stay up for the. I know they wore green in the semi-final, didn't they? But I remember being able to stay up for the semi-final. And some people say the 1990 matches were dour, but if you look in the earlier games when West Germany are at the San Siro and Lothar Matthäus comes out of deep midfield and scores, and Klinsmann scores. I think that's after the header. Is that against the Netherlands? It looks like from the keeper behind there. And Klinsmann was a great player, wasn't he? Still a bit of a diver at that point. And even though it's West Germany, I think that's a classic, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, so much so that I bought it recently, and it came in the post the other day. I don't know if
how much did they charge you for? Well, is it an original 1990 as well?
No. It's I'm not sure of the make of it, but it was from a website called Retro Shirts. If they're watching, feel free to sponsor the channel. But but it was only like £30 or something, so it's obviously not an exact replica, but it's a very, very good copy. But unfortunately, because of lockdown, it doesn't quite fit at the moment. So hopefully,
after your 17th bottle of wine of the lockdown, yeah.
Hopefully, by the time I'm back playing five-a-side, it might fit. Right, the next part. Then I've asked you to send in a couple of clips for me to watch. The first one is not actually the first time we've had Vicarage Road appear as on one of the clips, but it wasn't.
Oh, when did you have Vicarage Road? I know it was Deeney, wasn't it?
Yeah, Deeney against Leicester in the playoffs. But this is an Ipswich one. Dramatic winner, Richard Chaplow. So just give us the context. There won't be any sound on this, so if you just talk over the clip as it plays.
Yeah, so Ipswich have been rubbish for 20 years, and this is 2014-15 when we're actually good. Watford are at the top of the league. We're challenging for the playoffs. This is the 94th minute. Just look behind the goal. Chaplow, in it goes. Utter limbs. Yeah. And this was at the point, there's a lovely moment as well where the fans are still well behind Mick. All the players coming. There's a couple of Wolves there. There's
Stephen Hunt,
Stephen Hunt joining the pylon. Then look at that. Mick knows he's done a classic. We probably had 3% possession and -3 shots in that game and still managed to win. But what it stands for to me, Tom, is pretty much the only time Ipswich. Great finish actually by Chaplow. So cool there. Ian Wright would be pleased with that one in terms of going cool. And Sears does really. It's a mistake and a counter attack. It's a classic Mick goal, isn't it? But no, it just says to me, Ipswich just haven't won a lot of big games. They tend to have bottled them, and as supporters, we haven't had that many really great sort of big moments. And this was the one time in and I'm struggling to think of others in the last even 10 years where there was a big moment, a big game, and we were up in the league against an opponent away from home, and that big moment went for us. And I'm sure Wolves have had tons of them, particularly in the Faux Sun era, haven't they? Yeah, exactly. But it went for us, and you can see when Ipswich is rocking, all the away stands are always full, the supporters are engaged, and it just makes me think we can have more of those moments, and they've just been far too few. There was a couple that season. There was a similar game away at Charlton actually, and there's an absolutely the other video I was going to send to you, Tom, was there's a Charlton fan filming it from behind the goal, and it's so funny because it's like 95 minutes, it's 0-0, and he commentates it and he goes, if they score from this, they don't deserve it. I'm telling you, they haven't even been near us, and it goes across. And it's Noel Hunt actually puts it in, and obviously he starts effing and blinding. But it's just so funny, so typical of McCarthy and what other fans think of. They don't deserve this. I tell you, this weird thing of how have they won? They haven't had any possession. They haven't had any territory, and they've kept a clean sheet and won. But So Chaplow at Watford.
So that's the same season that you got to the playoffs and lost to Norwich, was it?
Yeah, so it's 2014-15, and in the Marcus Evans era, it's the only time we got anywhere near. And to be honest, we scraped into the playoffs at the end, but we were top of the league at Christmas, had a big win at Brentford. A lot of fans say if he'd bought in a couple of players in that January, I know ifs, buts and maybes, and sadly we came up against the old enemy with parachute payments and at that point the highest salaried championship team of all time, and Bradley Johnson, Wes Hoolahan, Nathan Redmond, Cameron Jerome, and they were too good for us over 2 legs. But that was the time when maybe we could have built and done something. But Mr. Evans is running it as a business, sadly, not as a well, what would you call it? A football club.
Yeah. Well, that leads us quite nicely onto the next clip that you've sent me, which is a Norwich clip, which I was not expecting. I thought it was going to be one of like an England clip or a great football moment. But this perhaps might work better with sound on, but unfortunately we can't have that at the moment. So talk us through this clip then.
And so this is Norwich in the Premier League, and this is the great Luis Suarez, and through he goes and misses an absolute sitter. And if you look behind the goal, that is all the Norwich fans in the Barclay end. Bear in mind, Norwich have punished Ipswich, so it's okay for me to enjoy seeing Norwich get punished. And boy, did Suarez punish them. They're all giving it the absolute big, and Suarez runs away, and what's he do? Touch, filthy nutmeg.
Outside of the foot.
It's an incredible goal. And then, of course, it's just so funny for me that the Barclay end all up giving it to Suarez. And it's like, did they never learn Norwich against Suarez? Don't wind that guy up. He was incredible. And look how filthy the goal is as well. Nuts. And look at
who's the defender? Is it Ryan Bennett? No. I can't quite tell.
I can't tell you. It's moving too quickly for me there.
It's definitely John Ruddy in goal.
What a goal. It's a couple of Wolves there, isn't it? And just that, I think sometimes football provides some very poetic moments. And the thing with football banter, I don't really get involved in it because you are going to end up with egg on your face. And the thing with football banter is you have to be all in. So, the Norwich fans, great. When someone goes through and misses a sitter, up you go. But when you get involved in football banter, you know there's going to be moments like that where you pick on the wrong guy who pulls off a nutmeg outside of the foot literally 15 seconds later. And of course, being Suarez. And I love that he doesn't milk it too much. That he just gives them all a look and he says, look, I'm Suarez. I don't need to get in a slanging match with you. By the way, I'm too good for you. I'm going to go and celebrate this goal with my fans. And by the way, in the next 3 games, I'm going to score from the halfway line twice. And,
John Ruddy still has nightmares about Luis Suarez. I'm sure I've heard him say that.
He does know. Jack Reeve, who I'm doing a little series with at the moment from Talk Norwich City, the question came up, opponent you feared the most. And for all Norwich fans will say Suarez, which is quite amusing because Ipswich fans would say David Nugent. He's the Suarez of Ipswich. But he said that Ruddy was actually screwed in the tunnel beforehand. He was terrified, and then of course you start to do things differently, and you maybe a couple of those lobs. Maybe he's in the wrong place because that horrible little brilliant crap house is gonna score past him. But I thought it was a great clip.
Yeah, I love it. Inject that into my veins, right? So the final bit of the show then is for you to show me a bit of a mystery piece of memorabilia. Anything with a story. I said when you asked me yesterday, we've had all sorts of things. Billy Wright's lighter from the 1949 FA Cup final. We've had photos, all sorts of stuff. So what have you brought us today?
I hope you're going to let me get away with this because we're on lockdown. The bit of memorabilia is in Ipswich in my parents' house, and I'm in Bedfordshire, unable to get it. But I've got an old scrapbook. It's the Ipswich Evening Star scrapbook. And when I was growing up, I lived opposite a place called the Belsterbrook Hotel. And people on the Blue Monday podcast are bored of me telling these stories, but we're on a Wolves podcast now, so I can. And as a young kid, I used to go over to the hotel, and Ipswich were in the Premier League in 92-93, and the players from the opposing teams would stay at the hotel. And it was a bit of a different time because you knew at about, I don't know, midday or something, that the players were going to come into the reception. And if it was Man United or Liverpool or things of that nature, there'd be tons of people there, and the players would come out and they would sign autographs, get on the bus, go down to the ground. And there's a couple of particular things, but probably the most valuable one is that the last game of the 92-93 season was at home to Forest, and it's Brian Clough's last game.
No way.
And I didn't. This is so. I wish I could go back and do it again because I
Yeah.
didn't understand who I was talking to.
Yeah.
Because I'm like 10 years old.
Yeah.
Out he comes in the green jumper. It's incredible that I got to do this. And there was me and two other lads because it was Forest. Roy Keane was there. I remember Kingsley Black as well.
Nigel Clough, would he have been? Was he Forest at that
Yeah,
point?
yeah, a good player as well.
Yeah.
Clough, and then he went on to Liverpool, didn't he?
Mm.
So Brian Clough comes out, and I kind of knew who he was, but I didn't understand the greatness. You know, I just knew that this was a figure. So I go up to him, and I go, I've been told by my dad, Mr. Clough or Sir or whatever, you ask nicely. And if they say yes, you say thank you, and if they say no, you say okay, that's no problem. You don't have to sign my book. You've got a match to go and do or whatever. Mr. Clough, please may I have your autograph, sir? He just looks at me and he goes, "Get on the bus." I'm like,
No way.
Okay. So he walks on to the bus, and there's me and two other kids walk up, and the guy in front. So I'm the middle of the three, and the guy in front of me gives him the book, and he goes, "What's that, son?" And there's a spider on his book. You got a spider on your book. I can't do.
Yeah,
the
young
voice.
man.
Perfect. There you go. Young man, spider on the book. Get off the bus. Get rid of that spider. Right. So I'm at the front of the kit. I'm terrified. Absolutely terrified. Yeah. I'm like, who's this weird green
alcoholic
genius, flawed genius? I pass him the book and he goes, "Young man, what's your name?" "Oh, Ben." And he says it as he writes it. He goes, "To Ben, be good. Love, Brian." It's absolutely incredible. No, and then I go to take the book back. I'm not making this up. This is genuine Brian Clough. And he pulls the book away and he goes like this. And I'm like, oh God, what's he going to do? And he gives me a hug.
Oh.
He gives me a hug. And I walk away and I walk out of the bus and I'm like, what just happened? This is so weird. And then as you grow older, and I remember the Match of the 70s series coming on, and I'm watching, oh, that's Brian. What? So he wins the league with Derby, and then he's going to, take Forest from the second division and win 2 European Cups. So yeah, just that. It's not that I don't really care about the autograph. It's the fact that I can tell a crazy Brian Clough story. And then I ended up working at the Belstead Brook as a kid because I lived opposite it. And when Newcastle played Ipswich, it was the first time Sir Bobby had come back in a competitive game. He'd done a friendly with Porto, but it was going to be Sir Bobby has come back. The most popular ever guy at Ipswich is going to come back, and of course the place was crazy. And there's two things I remember on my shift. There's one point where Kieran Dyer, Titus Bramble, Kevin Beattie, and Bobby Robson are sat round a table. And Kevin Beattie is so sweet as well. Has been voted the number one, and he just wants to show his idol, his mentor. He's like, Gaffer. Look at this. I'm number one. And then later in the night, and I can't believe this happened to me either. So Bobby went the wrong way from the room. So I'm walking down the corridor, and there's Sir Bobby Robson, right? And I say to him, "Are you okay, Sir Bobby?" And he went, "No, son, where's room 437? And I'm like, I'm at one end of the hotel, and I know that room 437 is miles away. And so
let me take you.
Exactly. Yeah. I did exactly the right thing. I said, "Oh, sir, would you like me to walk you?" I walked all the way through the Belstead Brook Hotel with Bobby Robson and talked to him. The two probably great, I know Sir Alf as well, but the two greatest English managers ever. Two of the three of them. I met them. So yeah, I have a lot of that hotel to thank for. But my item would be the scrapbook somewhere with to Ben, be good, love Brian.
Well, until we have actual proof of it happening, we'll have to.
I promise. I can tell you. I promise it happened. I promise. And that's what I say about the book. It's the memory that. I mean, I've told that story more than once. I'm sure I add on a little bit, a little bit every time. But that's as I as I recall it, a 10-year-old me meeting, maybe the greatest manager of all time.
That's definitely the best story that we've had so far. We've had an item that perhaps has got more gravitas, but
I can't beat the Billy Wright thing. No,
yeah.
I don't think I can.
You have to wait for that episode to come out. So it was a lighter that was given to all of the players who won the 1949 FA Cup final that had their names engraved into it, and because the things weren't really looked after or valued as much as they are today, and because players weren't paid as much, so they had to auction things off and give stuff away. Like Billy Wright famously gave some of his England caps to his milkman, who just came round. There you go. When you've got 103 of them, 105 of them,
yeah, right. That's insane. How much was that blooming lighter worth? Dear me.
I know.
Yeah, there you go.
But anyway, thank you very much, Ben, for coming on. It's been a pleasure. Really enjoyed listening to your stories, and hopefully in a couple of years' time we'll come back on.
I was just going to say, though, we're never going to meet again. Enjoy the Champions League.
Either we're in the Champions League and you're in League Two, or we'll both be back in the Championship.
Just tell me quickly, as an outsider, what are the plans from Fosun going forward? Is there the fan base to build this into a monster?
So we've got a 10,000 long waiting list for season tickets. The current capacity is about 32,000 at Molineux. But the problem is not so much with the actual expansion, is the space around the ground.
Because it's awful getting out, isn't it?
Yeah, the stand that the away fans sit in, the Steve Bull stand, there is not, that land sort of belongs to the university. So it's not as easy as, we'll just knock that down and then build another one.
Is that the weird shaped one? Angles round.
It's the one. If you've been to Molineux, it's the one where you have to sit. All the away fans sit only like 6 or 7 rows deep, all across the length of the pitch. It's opposite that when the cameras are pointed at the pitch, it's the one opposite.
Got it. Yeah.
Pitch. But that stand is so massive and old. It was built in the 70s that it would take 2 years to rebuild, and we couldn't afford to have 8,000 drop in attendance for 2 years at the moment. But the demand is there. But I think they're focusing more so on the pitch at the moment and trying to just guarantee that we'll be in European football at least for 3 or 4 years. And then, I think the ambition of them is to win the Premier League in, I think they said 7 years after promotion, which would be...
Wouldn't it be incredible if Neves is still there?
I think he will be. I think he will be. I don't know. I can't see why any of those players would want to leave now, because when they came to us in the Championship, everybody thought, and there's that famous clip of what's his name? Powell used to play for Charlton.
Chris Powell,
yeah. He says on 5 Live, why is Neves going to Wolves? It's obviously just a stepping stone to get to the Premier League, but he's there now. He's in Europe now after being at the club for 3 years. He's not going to leave to go to Man United and be another player. He's going to stay at Wolves and be the icon that he is now, and lauded after every pass that he makes is cheered to the rafters. He's not going to get that anywhere else. Same with Jota, Jimenez.
The first non-Ipswich game I did on my channel, would you believe, is Sheffield Wednesday 0, Wolves 1, and I'd not seen Neves or Bolly play before. And I just remember after about an hour of that game, I was like, this isn't fair.
Yeah. We've got the cheat codes.
Cheat code, isn't it? They are way too good. It was Bolly that made me laugh because he didn't seem to sprint.
No.
It's just like, what?
He's only recently started trying, and I think behind Van Dijk, I think he's the best defender in the Premier League.
He was comical in the Championship. Absolutely comical. Yeah.
Yeah. Lovely. So if you liked Ben's stories and Ben's chat, go and check out his channel over there. Is it still just called Benjamin Bloom, is it? Or is it
Blue Monday? Just type in Benjamin Bloom. It's a bit tricky because Ipswich got relegated. So the Blue Monday stuff is independent of it now. I brought in some extra people to work on that. So my channel is Championship stuff. So if you type in Benjamin Bloom, or follow me at Benjamin Bloom on Twitter from your lofty perch in Europe. If you want to hear anything about the Championship, then if you just want to support a fellow content maker, then I'd greatly appreciate
I
that.
quite like it. It keeps me grounded. It makes me think we were there once.
You were there for ages. Well, and it's so funny as well because I remember coming out of Wolves. We lost 1-0 and Kevin Muscat scored this weird 30-yarder from the last minute. And I nearly got into a fight coming out of the game because this Wolves fan goes, we were in second or third challenging for the challenging for the top. And this Wolves fan goes, "Oh, I don't think either team will go up this season." And I said to him, "Oh, well, at least it didn't cost us 35 million to not go up." And that was the reputation at the time, that, 35 million was this massive amount of money that had been spent year on year. And that was the reputation, the nearly men of the 90s that paid and never got there. So
we had some unbelievable
I know
teams.
Your pain.
Unbelievable teams we had in the 90s. But anyway, we could go on talking for hours, I think. But we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and to Ben's channel, and check this out on Spotify and iTunes as well. And I'll see you in a couple of days' time. Goodbye.